But we're in the game, so Daybreak, fun map, good times. And spawning in the bottom left position, we've got the orange Terran player. It's Owl. And spawning in the top right position, the green Protoss, Melle. So I really think that Owl this game may go for something a bit more economical. Daybreak is a much larger map for rush distances. You can happily secure a command center quite simply, and therefore it's safe to do so.
Yeah, and he really needs to as well. The Terran early aggression these days is now going up to starport. You've got to do that 1-1-1 and do some Hellion drops maybe. What we're seeing more commonly though is the delaying of stim and going instead for unstim marines and 2 widow mines, and use the widow mines as kind of like a basis, a backboard that you can keep retreating to with those unstim marines. So you run out, you try and snipe a few probes, Stalker or Zealot comes towards you, you just back off into the mines. And once they cast something like a Nexus Cannon, you just lift up the marines and fly away and leave the widow mines there for a bit later.
Widow mines are possibly my favorite unit in the game. Like, just flat out. The thing with widow mines is, as a caster, you love things which you can just get stupidly overexcited about, like a burrow baneling. But the downside to a burrow baneling is you literally have to sit there and watch it in case it does its thing, which lasts like a second. A widow mine, though, it does it every 40 seconds. What more could you ask for out of a unit as a caster?
Yeah, and the 1 second burrow time, and the fact that it hits air as well, so you get those beautiful, beautiful stacks. And with the 1 second burrow time, you're seeing a lot of mech players just bum rushing these big armies and just burrowing underneath, and the 1 second burrow, and then, boom.
I've forgotten who it was, but it was at one of the ESET UK Masters qualifiers where I believe it was Fusa was just messing around. He just went like mass widow mine against someone, and it was so effective against this poor Zerg player.
Yeah, if someone doesn't think that you're going for mass widow mine, it can actually be quite good and quite powerful. And if you get to a certain point where your widow mine army completely outnumbers their army, you can rush at them and they have to retreat because they can't kill the widow mines faster than they burrow, and then their entire army dies.
Just like widow mines. To be fair, the first time I played the beta as Terran, I made nothing but widow mines, and I just covered the attack paths with widow mines everywhere. And every time because of course MMR was so messed up in the beta, every time my opponent moved out of his base, like to come and attack me, he'd get halfway across the map and all of his units would be dead. And he was raging at me so hard. It was just like, the beta's for testing things out. What are you doing?
Oh god,
with this
yeah, it's like,
strategy?
Why would you go into the beta and then just proxy stuff? I'm like, because I don't want to play standard every single game. I want to have a bit of fun.
I want to try mass widow mines. It seems a viable strategy. But the viable strategy we got out of Owl at the moment is getting some scouts off with a Reaper. Unfortunately, the Mothership Corps is not a big fan of this poor little Reaper. Doesn't want the bad influence of the combat drug abusing units in with his delicate little probes, and will now scare it away. And that just means that all this is achieved is finding out what Melle is going for. And the answer is quite simply a Stargate, which won't even get scouted.
No, it won't for now. I think he might try and hop up back in there, but we'll still see. He sees the Nexus going down, and I like this from Al because he went for a very macro base play, went for that delayed gas so he could get that expansion up slightly faster, and then pumping what gas he had into that Reaper straight away. So he is going to see 2 workers on each gas, and he's going to see the Stargate, but the Reaper pays for it with his life.
The poor Reaper. We would have a moment of silence for said Reaper, but that would make us terrible, terrible casters. In terms of what else is going on though, we have just got more barracks being pumped out, which is a perfectly normal follow-up from Owl here in order to get down that command center, so everything looking really quite comfortable and nice. The Marines coming down, just knocking out those unbuildable plates. The Nexus about half done for Melle, and the first Oracle coming out, because let's face it, game 1 the Oracle did a good amount of damage.
Yeah, and I do like seeing Protosses who are starting to work a lot more with Stargate playing PvT, especially with this Oracle, because what it does, it denies them from moving out, and they need to get that eBay, they need to get the turrets in their base, and until that point, they cannot move out with their units at all. So it really gives you a big window of opportunity where you're like, I'm safe. I don't have to worry about him coming at me, I'm going to be fine.
Now, as we can see, Well, actually, I can't see because my mouse has decided to stop moving. But as I'm sure everyone else can see as I move with my keyboard, this third gas is on its way down for Melle. And this third gas is just going to allow him to keep pumping quite tech-heavy units without overcommitting to it. And it's something that Al hasn't yet scouted. The first Oracle, obviously, about to get into the natural, and there isn't much there to defend with.
No, there isn't. And I mean, you need 6 unstim Marines to kill an Oracle. He's got enough there, but they're just out of position. And these Oracles are so fast, he just takes some damage, flies away.
Have you seen in the current test realm of StarCraft, they're looking at increasing Oracle's speed, which I think would just be crazy.
Well, at the moment they're really binary, because either there's no static defense and you can do some damage early on, or there is static defense and then they are useless. I think their overall aim is to try and look into making them more viable later game.
But early game, it's going to get abused so much.
Oh
like,
yeah, definitely.
Ridiculously.
That's the first thing Protoss players do. The Protoss player goes, how can I abuse this unit? Just like Terran players. Terran players do that as well. It's like, what gimmicky thing can I do? Protoss players tend to go, what can I all in with this?
Zerg players are like, how can I make more drones?
Exactly, they're like, okay, that's a cool new unit. I'm going to make that after I make 80 drones.
Which is, hey, we Zerg players, we're a simpler breed. But yeah, as we can see now, these two Oracles tearing apart the natural.
Yeah, the
main
double Oracle tag team. I mean, they got 12 SCVs killed.
That's good times. And now down to just 24. But he does have those 2 mules. Mules are money machines. They are basically like an investment bank pre-2008. That is how good they are at making money for you. But ultimately, this counter push is going to do a nice little bit of damage. It's got stim done. A lot of damage going down. The Nexus is taking quite a bit of fire. Probe's getting pulled, and that just means that Al really going to level out the worker count now.
He's going to try, but he's going to lose a lot of his army, and this is going to be crucial. And I'm surprised he just didn't go for that Nexus. I mean, the stuff that was coming out, Probe, Stalker, Sentry, Mothership Core, none of that has very high DPS, so he could have just focused that Nexus down and really put himself back in the driving seat. But as it is, 12 workers killed to 9, so he has come back a slight amount. But the problem is he has no standing army now, and these Oracles can start to run through and ravage again.
And as these Oracles keep coming in, keep dealing damage, well, guess what? Even though one goes down, actually, just in terms of the workers killed, Melle has killed a couple more than that of his opponent, is ahead by 7 probes, but 7 probes is easily made up for by the 2 mules that are going to be out all the time. So I'd say things are economically quite even, but the first Colossus, or the second Colossus, just about to hit the field, and with extended thermal lance coming out, what we really need to see from Al is the first couple of Vikings, but unfortunately he has no medevac, so he can't actually afford to get any Vikings out yet.
Yeah, he is delaying his starport tech a long time just to do these little early pushes, and it's kind of putting him at a handicap because Melle's just holding everything that he throws at him quite comfortably, and good envision. Thought he was going to lose Oracle, ended up losing it, but 2 Colossus push. I mean, he's just got enough that he can hold this. Going to take out 1 Colossus E? No, good time warp, and these Colossus are just going to clean everything up. And I expect to see LGG, there's nothing you can do against this.
Yeah, it's really not a nice position to be in when both Colossi do still survive. A couple of Marauders, a couple of Marines, but the Stalkers alone can deal with that quite comfortably. A few more Marauders desperately trying to get out. Extended Thermal Lance isn't even done yet, but just moving forward, dealing some nice damage. The SCVs all getting pulled, but even if with the SCVs help you manage to take out this force, you're going to lose so many workers that it's going to be nigh on impossible to come back from it.
Yeah, he does take out the 2 Colossus, but so many SCVs have gone down. Looking at the count, it's now 25 SCVs have been killed. And he's going to clean up this little force here, but the problem is the Protoss player can just keep throwing units at this now. He's at such an economic advantage.
He is pretty hugely ahead. Extended Thermal Lance also finishing up. More Colossi coming down. And Al is starting to move forward. He wants to knock out that proxy pylon. And Dill is, well, try and get a bit of damage done. But the Phoenix now dealing some nice shots off on these medevacs. If they start picking those off, it's going to be incredibly frustrating, but just surviving with 4 HP.
Ooh, and these Phoenix is going to get sniped for free. Do take 1 medevac out there. Before they back off. And Melle does have a problem of, he goes and he's like, okay, these units are going to die, and then just leaves them there. You saw with Oracle, he was like, it's going to die, so he casts Envision, and then he could have run it away.
Well, this is now just Al going for a bit of a desperation counter push. The Mothership Core does pull back so it doesn't get taken out. Great little force field there. Just means that the Marauder's taking a good amount of damage. A lift on the other Marauders to save the Colossus. And all in all, this is just Melle really cleaning it up, and Owl is in such a massive amount of problems at the moment.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he is going to be able to push in here and kill that Colossus. These Phoenixes are going to go down very slowly to the Marines on the ground, but I mean, another Colossus comes down and he just cleans everything up. And I'm loving two things about Melle. I'm loving his Mothership core control. He's putting down really good time warps at perfect times, putting down the Nexus cannon. He's really comfortable with this unit. And then using these Phoenixes, like he stopped producing from the Stargate to get his Colossus up, but he knows like the biggest problem right now from Terran is drops. Speed vacs are really hard to deal with, so having a handful of Phoenixes just to harass, scout, and prevent these drops from coming down is going to be so useful later in the game.
It's also helpful because you can start picking away at the medevacs that are with the army as well, as we're seeing at the moment, and being able to do that, keeping the medevac count lower, really pushes a Terran into an awkward spot where they have to prioritize medevac production over Vikings, and that just ultimately means that your Colossi are going to have so much more fun.
Yeah, and then also, when you get into this later point, you have the Vikings there, these dedicated air-to-air units to take the Colossus down. The Phoenix are going to ignore everything else and go directly from them. And Vikings versus Phoenix are not good. You're going to target fire the Colossus, granted, but the Phoenix will be able to take them out extra fast, so you're going to be able to save more Colossus as well. I just love how he handles this little pack of Phoenixes flying around.
And that's the real joy of Phoenixes, is they are so powerful all the way through the game. They can really be used effectively, but Owl actually getting a nice little bit of damage off of this third Nexus. The Colossi desperate to come down and try and save it, but they will not be able to do so.
He's going to take it out. And
that's a nice little sniper.
Is he going to lift up? He can't lift up because of these Phoenix. He can't lift up and run away now. Trying to boost the medevacs away, but Phoenixes, oh, are they going to get one?
They very well may.
I think they're going to get all of them. Nope, lifting up some units, Colossus coming in, and laser beams of death, melting everything, and that little raiding party gets the Nexus. But that's it. It just completely wiped off the face of the map.
So let's talk a little bit about the resources lost, because that's actually pretty similar. Only about, well, pretty much exactly just over 1,400 resources lost by Owl compared to Melle. But the big difference is the fact that Melle's been ahead in the worker count all day long, and that just means that with that third base being on its way back out, he's getting even further forward. The medevac count is being kept exceptionally low by these Phoenix. Only a single medevac on the field. That's preventing Owl from stimming very much, being too aggressive, dropping, all of those things that might be allowing him to get back into this game. And as such, it's really going to start hurting him as Melle starts really racking up the supply count, as we're seeing now.
Yeah, look at the units lost tab isn't telling the full story, because I mean, most of it has been high-tech units of Owl and workers. Workers don't cost a lot, but they are so crucial for the late stages of the game. And
yep.
I mean, he's going for it here. This is all he can do. He's doing a massive SCV pull. Every single SCV almost going out, and oh god, he's going the wrong way. The entire army's...
This scan was really good, saw exactly the movements of Melle's army, and while the obviously orbital command will come out, this is potentially going to end up in a bit of a base race, but the big difference being the recall. Yeah, as you quite rightly said, that is just such a huge advantage.
And this guy, he knows his Mothership core spells. He's quite comfortable using this unit, and it's another example there of how good he is using that. And Al's suddenly like, oh, but you were at my third. How are you? Oh god. Bloody recall, and as the SCVs just melt to the Colossus, Phoenix lifting up more orders, that's just... it wasn't even close. GG.
That was...